So Lieutenant, go ahead and tell us what exactly happened on Saturday. What was the call you initially responded to?
So I'll give you the synopsis first. Around 4:25 p.m. on Saturday, our emergency communications center received a 911 call from a woman claiming that her daughter had been shot in the 2100 block of Manatee Avenue East. So arriving officers quickly found that her daughter, 7-year-old female, had been shot in the left shoulder. Non-life-threatening injury, more of a surface wound, and the shooting had actually occurred while the vehicle was in motion on Manatee Avenue. So the child was transported to Manatee Memorial Hospital, where she was treated and released about an hour later after receiving some staples on the wound. Basically, our detectives arrived on scene and immediately went into a canvass of the neighborhood where they were able to secure some decent surveillance footage. The victim, the mother of the victim, had no knowledge of anything. She said all of a sudden she made the turn onto Manatee Avenue and her child started screaming. And when she looked back, she realized, seeing blood, that something obviously had happened. So we were able to go back, our detectives working the area were able to secure some surveillance footage, and we were able to identify a white SUV that makes a turn to go south on 21st Street East at the exact moment that the mom makes a turn to go east on Manatee Avenue. Based on the trajectory and through some CSI work, determined that that's the really only plausible way or that a bullet could have come from. So we went back to the canvas, spent some time with witnesses that heard it but didn't see it, took video surveillance footage back to the neighborhood and was able to identify a vehicle matching that description, very similar. Got to remember, on surveillance cameras, they're focused for property, so a lot of times what we get is off in the distance. So this is an off in the distance shot, but the vehicle had some very strong distinguishing features about it. We were able to get a name of a mother who said, or the witness said that the mother lets her 17-year-old son drive the vehicle all the time. So yesterday, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, detectives were doing surveillance on a residence when the vehicle approached. A traffic stop was initiated on the vehicle and the vehicle fled, and after a very, very brief pursuit, 4 suspects fled the vehicle after they bailed out. All 4 were apprehended. We were able to bring all 4 suspects back to the station. Witnesses again at the scene of the where the vehicle stopped were able to point us in the direction of a trash can where 2 firearms were dumped by one of the suspects. Detectives were able to then work with the driver and passengers to establish that 18-year-old Alex Benito Ramirez had fired the shot on Saturday afternoon. Alex has confessed to the crime. He initially has said that the firearm went off. Other people in the vehicle are giving conflicting statements, so we haven't really truly established why he fired the gun. But at this time, we do not believe that there's a motive behind it. We do not believe that the family nor the little girl were targeted. That being said, we worked 24 hours a day because our children are paramount. Our children's safety is paramount in this city. We cannot have a 7-year-old being shot and not work that case. So we worked until we found out who did it.
How lucky is this little girl?
I got to spend some time with her on Saturday. She's an amazing little girl. Let me just say that. She's the toughest kid I think I've ever met. And as a parent, it broke my heart, one, to have to talk to a 7-year-old about being shot. 3 inches, I would say 3 inches give or take, and this would have been a completely different story. You got to think she's a small frame child and the bullet goes across this shoulder. That doesn't give a whole lot of room before something serious really happens. She's very fortunate to be alive.
And you're talking Manatee Avenue, middle of the afternoon. I mean, you could have been talking about countless people.
Absolutely. Again, we're reaching out. We're still out canvassing. We're still working our neighborhood connections. We're still looking for surveillance video. Middle of the afternoon, a random shot into a vehicle doesn't make sense to us. Playing around with a gun is a possibility. Showing off for your friends is a possibility. I don't think there's a criminal element. I do not believe that he intentionally meant to shoot that car. But I don't believe the fact that the gun just accidentally went off either. So that's what we're trying to establish now.
Did he seem remorseful or anything, especially knowing it's a 7-year-old girl that he hit?
I wasn't in the interview with him. I was getting updates as the afternoon went on. I was told that, you know, he very quickly confessed once he found out that a 7-year-old was hit. You know, that's horrific. You can't not feel remorseful about that. But again, I wasn't in the room. Again, everyone that's involved in this, all 4 players from yesterday are cooperative. The suspect is the only adult. The others are juveniles, ages 17 and down. I believe that the driver from yesterday's incident is also the driver from Saturday. He is obviously, you know, his story is playing into this as well. I don't believe that there was others in the car, but we don't know that I can't say that with certainty at this point.
Without that surveillance footage that you guys found, would this still be unsolved?
Yes. Yeah, we urge citizens, and you know, in the city we have a program called SafeCam, where residents can register their surveillance cameras. We don't ask for access to your surveillance cameras, but in this case we were able to pull up our SafeCam log and show that the business that we actually received the footage from had surveillance cameras, and we were able to go to them and ask and say, hey, you know, during this time, can you go back and review your footage? And sure enough, they had our victim on the camera, which led us in the direction of the suspect. Yeah, without that, we would be cold, for sure.
And what charges are we talking about?
Right now, he's been charged with aggravated battery with a firearm and shooting into an occupied vehicle. Other charges in relating to the driving and the pursuit and all that are pending at this time. We're not done with the case, obviously.
Do you think they knew that they hit someone? Because they fled when cops tried to pull them over.
So on Saturday, they left the area very quickly on the video. Yesterday they fled because obviously I think because there was guns in the car, they knew. I don't know if they knew if they hit somebody or not. I think that they do, but I don't think they realize they actually hit a person, let alone a 7-year-old child, an innocent child.
Aside from the guns, anything else, any other charges they might be facing unrelated?
There's some drugs in the car, some marijuana. Again, that's all pending right now. We're working with the state attorney's office to figure out what avenue we're going to take with charges. For now, Mr. Ramirez has been charged with the 2 counts, the aggravated battery and the shooting into an occupied vehicle.
Any prior interaction with these individuals? I mean, if they're in a car with drugs and guns.
So Mr. Ramirez just turned 18 September 2nd. So anything prior to that's a juvenile record, and I won't comment on any past criminal history this time. Any other questions?
So this happened the 8th. Mm-hmm. It's now the 11th.
Right.
I understand this takes some time to investigate out, but you know, and the release came out yesterday. What in those 2 days? Why didn't the community know that a 7-year-old child had been hit by a bullet?
Sure. This case was, again, we didn't have that SUV until Sunday afternoon when we had the surveillance video, so we really had nothing. The child it was a minor injury. Granted, I'm not taking anything away from the fact that a 7-year-old was hit. But in a criminal investigation such as this, we needed to have time to get our ducks in a row, and thankfully we did, because we were able to recover a firearm that we are very, very convinced is the shooter's gun. We were able to get all 4 suspects that we needed to get, including our shooter. My concern was if this would have, that's another reason why I don't believe he knew that he hit a child or hit anybody, because they didn't get rid of the gun, they didn't get rid of the vehicle, they didn't try to hide. There was an element in there where we felt we needed time to try to get our story and get their story locked down, so that way we could do our investigation a little bit further and edge into making an arrest without them destroying evidence. And we didn't see, there was no other incidents that day. There was no other shootings, no other reports of shootings. The witnesses only reported hearing the 1 shot. We were very, very careful to say, let's hold back on this, give us some time to try and figure out what happened and put this person away. Again, we dedicated countless man hours from the moment this came out until the arrest was made yesterday afternoon. My guys didn't stop. And I'm super proud of the detectives and the patrol officers that worked this case. Obviously any case has precedence. Any shooting case is going to have, implications that we're going to work hard. But when it's a 7-year-old child, we cannot have that in our community, in our city. We cannot allow that. So we worked until we found this person.
Can you talk about the unusual nature? You don't hear this very often.
The unusual nature, the random shot.
The random shot and then it hitting a child in another car.
It was part of the baffling part of Saturday afternoon into Sunday morning into Sunday afternoon until we found that video. Yes, unusual, unprovoked. We have to go back and talk to the mom, go through her family history. Was it somebody she was mad at? Was somebody mad at her? Did this happen somewhere else? And it's just being reported here. The one element we had in this is a 7-year-old screaming in the backseat of a car. I do not believe for 1 second, and nor did my detectives, that happened anywhere other than where she said. Because who's going to let that happen to their child and then drive forever and ever to try to cover something up? Mom has been honest and forthcoming with us from the very beginning, and we had no reason to doubt her story.